Wes Goldberg, cold open question of the day for April 5th. Malachi Flynn just dropped 50. Good for him. Want to say congratulations to Malachi Flynn, who's been on 3 teams this year. Is that the most random 50 piece you can remember?
It is. The first guy I thought of was Corey Brewer. What was that, like 10 years ago now? But even with Corey Brewer, he was a stud in college. He was a top 10 pick in the NBA. Like, Malachi Flynn was good enough in college, obviously, to get to the NBA. But nobody ever saw 50 points coming from Malachi Flynn. I love this stat. This is courtesy of Kendall Baker from Yahoo Sports. No player has ever scored 50 points with a lower career scoring average than Malachi Flynn, who entered that game having averaged 5.2 points per game for his career. That's not even my favorite stat. This is my favorite stat. Malachi Flynn in that game scored almost 15% of his career points in that one game. That's insane. It's insane. It is easily the most random player to ever score 50.
I think it also makes me wonder if this is possible. Do we need to raise the bar to like 60 to be impressed? And I'm not saying that like we should take 50 for granted, because it still is like a lot of points and very cool and all of that. But now I'm wondering, okay, if like Malachi Flynn on the Detroit Pistons just whips out 50. And by the way, his team lost to the Atlanta Hawks. So like, yeah, tough.
He doesn't exactly make his teammates better.
No.
Taking the sag on the Malachi Flynn 50.
Yeah, like I understand.
Cost?
Yeah, Cade's out. Like, you're playing like some random guys. Like, what do the Pistons have to play for at this point? But like, you did lose to the Atlanta Hawks, who don't have Trae Young right now and aren't particularly like a good basketball team. So, like, what did this actually get you? The other part about it, Wes, that I think is interesting is this isn't exactly how I would have drawn up someone like him getting 50, because he only made 5 threes. It's not like he like took 20 threes and got hot and made like 11 of them, right? Like, this is actually like a balanced diet of shots: 13 twos, 5 threes, and 9 free throws.
Maybe it's time to start buying stock in Malachi Flynn. I don't know. Here's the thing is,
if he played for the Heat, would we be calling him an all-star?
No, but if he played for the Boston Celtics, he'd win Defensive Player of the Year or something, because the Boston Media Mafia would be fueling that. April is weird. April is a weird time in the NBA, and I think we've officially hit April. I know April 1st was a few days ago, but this is like the first official like weird thing. So Corey Brewer's 50-piece, that happened in April, 10 years ago. April is a weird time. It happened April 14th, 2014. I'm sorry, April 11th, 2014. So April is like okay, we got a couple of weeks into the playoffs start. What are we really doing? You got a bunch of teams sort of resting guys. You got a kind of bunch of teams just sort of playing dudes that they weren't normally playing, just to see, all right, what's this guy all about? And so Malachi Flynn gets in against an Atlanta Hawks team who are atrocious defensively anyway in April. Like, this was a situation ripe for a Malachi Flynn 50-burger. I kind of equate, going back to what you said, like, do we need to raise the bar to 60? I don't think we need to raise the bar. Just simply have to keep the context. And we actually have to, like, maybe layer the context in. So what is the equivalent of Malachi Flynn scoring 50 points against an Atlanta Hawks team in April is like scoring 20 points against, I don't know, the Magic and their good defense in December. I feel like it would be equally as impressive if Malachi Flynn did that thing versus the 50 points against Atlanta in April.
The Detroit Pistons should just get to go home is my other take here. Like, can they just like go on vacation now? Like, I think everyone would be okay if like we just like give some wins out to end the year and everyone can still get their paychecks, but like go home. That would be cool. No injuries.
What happens when Cade Cunningham comes back and Jaden Ivey's there, and like there's only one basketball, Chris?
Yeah, they can win 27 games next year. That's the hope for the Pistons. Real tough stuff. All right, coming up on today's show, we've got some Julius Randle news, and we're going to play a new game here. We're going to go through some basketball player stocks. We'll explain what that means as we get into it, but this is the Just Basketball Show for April 5th. Welcome in to the Just Basketball Show. I'm Chris Manning. That's my guy, Wes Goldberg. Wes, Great to be with you on this Friday, our first full week with you on the team. How are you doing? How do you feel like the are we a good culture? Like, what's the vibes that you up, for the playoff run here?
It's been a good culture fit. I feel like we're all on the same page. We all have the same goal in mind. We're all looking at the ultimate, which is the championship of whatever it is that we do in the NBA podcast sphere. And I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think, we're going to be in the play-in. We're just smaller team here, lower budget, and all that stuff, but we're scrappy and we're coming,
Yeah.
If we were an NBA team, I think we have our segment waving the flag where we look at these, we pick the Magic and the Kings and we wave the flag and we get into them. I wonder if we are the Magic just aren't always the most fun team to watch if we're being honest about it. The Kings, no Malik Monk right now. De'Aaron Fox is being weird about doing media. I don't know if these are the right vibes for us, but we could find a scrappy
We'd have to be a team that's sort of on the fringe that made a mid-season acquisition. I don't know if we're quite like Dallas adding Daniel Gafford. Does that make me Daniel Gafford in the podcast conversation?
Well, I'm like Dante Exum, so
okay, maybe, but I'm just not as efficient as Gafford, so that's where I think and I think I'm a little bit more efficient than PJ Washington. So we got to find some sort of middle ground.
Yeah, are we the Houston? Maybe we're like the Houston Rockets. We're starting to spend. We're a year away.
Okay, yeah, I like it.
I don't know. Tough answer here. At least we're not the Pistons.
On Jeff Green.
Shout out King. Want to remind you, subscribe, rate, review, ever get your podcast, please do so in YouTube as well. Find us on TikTok, all your favorite social media platforms. Wes just did a great TikTok on what should just frankly be the right playoff bracket, and I'm going to do one on Friday getting you ready for the Women's Final Four, which is going to be sick. And after we record this, I'm going to go spend some money on Final Four Cleveland merch because they have a store that I can walk to from where I live, which is very nice. We're going to start with Julius Randle, who is out for the year with season-ending shoulder surgery. This is first reported by ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski on Thursday. Randle will have surgery. He has been out since January 27th. He had been trying to avoid surgery, but, quote, doctors warned him recently that continued instability in the shoulder made it unsafe for him to play again this season, sources told ESPN, end quote. So, Wes, you hear this. You understand that Randle's going to be out. They're not going to get him back for the playoffs. What do you make of this news? Obviously, we feel for Randle, I think, on a human level, but for the Knicks as a team currently fourth in the East, what do you make of this for them the rest of the regular season and into the playoffs?
Sucks for Julius Randle. Yeah. Not really going to matter for the New York Knicks that much. If you were buying the Knicks as a legit championship contender, then yeah, maybe this is something that affects that. It obviously hurts their ceiling. When we did our X factors, we talked about Dante DiVincenzo last week being maybe that secondary scorer because Julius Randle was out, and who kind of emerges as that second banana next to Jalen Brunson. But either way, what we're talking about here is a team that's going to be very good and has been banged up all year, but has been very resilient. And Jalen Brunson is that dude. And can they find that other dude? And I guess the idea would be that it was Randle. Now, I don't know that Julius Randle has had the best postseason performances. And when I say I don't know, I kind of know. And so I don't know that this hurts them all that much, really, even when it comes to maybe their viability in terms of a team that might get to the Eastern Conference Finals. The big thing to me is, can this almost act as some sort of deal with the devil where, okay, we lose Julius Randle for the season, but does this create some sort of karma universe thing where we are able to get OG Anunoby back? Because if they're able to get OG back, and now you've got Brunson, DiVincenzo, Anunoby, you've got the healthy rotation at center between Robinson and Hartenstein and Precious Achiuwa, and you got everybody coming off the bench. You got McBride doing his thing. That team still is really dangerous in the playoffs, and defensively, they can smother teams. Where if Randle has a weakness, that's probably it. Is that he might be the guy that you could poke at defensively in certain matchups. So, if you're able to get OG back, I don't think this is going to hurt the Knicks that much in terms of what they can do this year. But he had been trying to avoid this surgery. He actively did not want surgery, and 2 different specialists told him, no, you got to get this surgery, not just to keep your playing career going, but this could create, if you don't get surgery and you injure it again, then you could have permanent damage in this shoulder for the rest of your life. And So that's basically what it comes down to. The good news for him is that he should be able to be back by the start of next season. He didn't wait too long where it's going to impact next year, but that's a different question. In terms of the short term and the Knicks playoff run, I actually don't really think it's going to hurt them that bad.
The OG thing is the weird part of this, just because it's either 27 of 44 he has missed, or 28 of 45. It's one of those two. This is like a bizarre thing because we kind of exactly know what he would be in this team, and exactly, I think, know what he would provide, but he also just has missed over half the games that he's been around on the Knicks to play because of this injury. And even the terminology on injury for him is pretty vague. Like Stefan Bondi at the Post had a story up the other day where he talked to some doctors, and they're like, yeah, this is like very vague. We can't actually tell you very much because the way this is being talked about is very vague. It's just flare-ups and like it. So you don't really even know like how severe it is. It's kind of like in that zone of injury right now, which is also like a very Knicks thing to do. And, they're right or whatever. I agree with you, though. Like, number one, Randle or no Randle, Knicks Magic in the 4-5 matchup is so grimy. And that's where it feels like we're headed right now with those two teams. Maybe one of them surges past Cleveland, who stinks right now, and gets the 3, and then they're playing Miami. But the Knicks are going to be in the grimiest first-round series in the East, regardless if Randle plays or not. And to your point, like, their identity will just be what it has been a lot of this year, which is Jalen Brunson being awesome, a lot of really tough, solid defenders and shooters. The bigger deal is, frankly, to me, Wes, probably that they got Mitchell Robinson back. That they got him back, and they have their 2 centers now, and they still have a Chu if they want to go that direction. Like, that feels like their role player depth is fully solidified around Brunson, and that's going to make them tough. Now, do I like their odds anymore, just not having a guy who could get hot in terms of Randle and push the Celtics or something? I don't, but I don't think they're going to be scared with or without him, and I do think the way they're going to play is going to be very, very seamless. I'm preemptively also just saying Josh Hart, book 3 weeks in Aruba when the season is done, because I think you're going to play a lot of minutes the rest of the way.
Yeah, I mean, this was the worst possible news for Josh Hart, wasn't it? Now he's probably texting OG. He's like, hey, whatever this tennis elbow thing that you got going on, come back. Because I keep saying all the things about wanting to play 48 minutes, but that guy is falling apart already. The Knicks were in Miami a couple nights ago, and you could just see him always like just grabbing at some other body part, limping around in pain. Like, the dude's a warrior. He's going out there. He's giving it everything he's got. But you can't imagine that it's going to be able that's going to last for whatever, 4 playoff series, hypothetically. Like, that's just not going to work. Look, the Knicks' biggest thing is that their formula is play great defense, get 30-plus from Jalen Brunson, and hope one of these other guys gets hot. And for most of March, it's been Dante DiVincenzo. The dude's been awesome for them. Sometimes it's Miles McBride coming off the bench. Sometimes, it's these other guys. Maybe Julius Randle has a propensity for being that guy more than those other guys that we're talking about are, but it doesn't really change New York's overall formula, where, to me, if I'm the Knicks, yeah, the Julius Randle thing, that's a tough thing to swallow. But I'm like kind of directing all of my prayers towards OG Anunoby, because that's the guy who changes everything. That's the guy who can guard Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown in a series. Like, Randle ain't doing that. You know what I mean? Like, OG's the guy that could guard Jimmy Butler in a playoff series. They didn't have that element for Heat Knicks last year when those teams met in the second round. Like, that's the guy. That's the guy that the Knicks need to get back.
Wes, answer this question before we move on to the big thrust of today's show. This is the X best team in the Eastern Conference as we look ahead of the playoffs. What team are the Knicks in your Eastern Conference hierarchy right now?
I probably have them third. And I don't feel great about it, because they could easily be second, or they could be like fourth, depending on how these next 2 weeks play out. But I probably have them third, right in the middle of that. I probably have them third right now.
If the Bucks were 5% better, I would not even hesitate and just say third. But then the Bucks are like now 500 with Doc Rivers, and like
2 straight really bad losses. Just the wheels coming off right now for them.
Yeah, and like people have thrown around this stat a lot, but the fact that the 10 seed in the West is closer to the 1 seed in the West than the 2 seed is in the East, like, it speaks to how good Boston is, but it also just speaks to how, frankly, like, underwhelming much of the Eastern Conference is. Like, you might get one other team with 50 wins in the East this year, when you could have thought maybe Canadian of the year, like you could have had maybe like 4, but it's like Cleveland's probably not going to get there. The Magic probably aren't going to get there. Then like there's just not enough time, and these teams are just never feeling seemingly consistent enough, and Boston's just out here like wrecking shop.
If you broke the league out into tiers, so like the number 1 tier would be like Boston and Denver.
Yeah.
All right. Then we get to that second tier of your Minnesotas, the Oklahoma Cities, those kinds of teams. That's your second tier. How many tiers down do you get until you hit your first Eastern Conference team? And what Western Conference team are they sharing that tier with? Because I would put the Clippers and Dallas in a tier by themselves. Like the Clippers or the Mavericks would be the second best team in the East. No question.
Yes.
No question. I'm not talking about record. Like, just put them in the East with the Eastern Conference schedule, all that stuff. Like, they would be the number 2 seed, easy, and qualitatively the second best team in the conference. Phoenix at 45-31 feels like they could be the second best team in the Eastern Conference, and that team has been a mess this whole year. So I think you start getting down to like the Pelicans and Suns area. And that's sort of where the Knicks and the Bucks and maybe the Miami Heat and the Sixers, depending on how you feel about those 2 teams, where those teams kind of belong.
Yeah, I would go Suns, Pelicans, Bucks, like in their own tier, because all of those teams are kind of weird. They all have flaws. They all have never really put together full identities this year. And then I think you could put like the Heat and the Lakers and the Warriors like in their own tier of like, we're scared of you because you have star players, but you've been weird all year, and I don't know if you're actually good. Yeah, like... Yeah.
So we're talking about the 4th tier in the West is the second tier for the East.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's not great. Honestly, this makes me think, if I am Glenn Taylor, who, whatever's going on with the Wolves, or if I'm Memphis Grizzlies ownership, I am already doing all the schmoozing, all the backdoor politicking I can, so that when we get the Sonics and we get the Vegas team, it's like, we'll go to the East. That's cool. Like, we're cool with that,
Oh my God, Anthony Edwards in the Eastern Conference. Where do we sign up for that? Is there a petition that we can sign to make this happen? That guy, no disrespect to the West Coast. I've lived on the West Coast and the East Coast. I juggle them both, but like Anthony Edwards, that's an East Coast guy, right? Like that's an East Coast star. Whether or not he ends up playing for an East Coast team, but like let's get him into the Eastern Conference because that's what he feels like.
Yeah, also just like more fun for us, Wes, who's people who live in the Eastern time zone, to just like get to watch him without like having to sometimes stay up till like far too late, getting old.
Getting old. Shea is like the West Coast guard, right?
Yeah.
Totally relaxed, chill, doesn't do a whole lot of media, just kind of doing his thing, leading the Oklahoma City Thunder to great heights. And Ant is the opposite of that. Equally as much of a great young guard in the NBA, but totally here for the cameras, giving great quotes. We need him in the East.
Yeah, there's no videos of Shea like there is with Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, like, have you seen the video of him watching Cardi B twerk, and then he's like smashing and it's Yuri, like, yeah, that feels like someone who would be happy to be on the East Coast, and Shea is the opposite energy of that. Shea is like, I'm about consistency. I don't think Shea is like, we've never had like Shea, and like this is even like admonishing Ant for this, like Kat kind of tried to do, but like, there's never been like Shea is like, hey, let me, whatever the big fast food chain in Oklahoma is, there's never like the concern of like, hey, is he gonna like get like McDonald's post game? Is he like, getting in and out when they're in LA? Like, yeah.
Ant needs the calories, number one. He just jumps so high that he burns more calories in a single dunk than most people do in a year. But if we're trying to get Minnesota over, so that means Seattle and Vegas go to the Western Conference. We get one more.
I think it would be, and I think it's probably Memphis would be the one geographically that makes sense. It's them or New Orleans. Like those are kind of the two.
Them or New Orleans.
Yeah, but if I'm in,
you get to pick.
I think I'd rather have Memphis. I just think like Ja will come back and be fun. I think like for the sake of like that just feels a little more like they feel a little more connected to like Atlanta than they do like. But New Orleans is kind of the same thing. It's just either like any of those teams should want to move over. Is I guess sort of the point. It's like you should be like, can I get out of the West? Can I just like have like not to paraphrase John Morant and turn his quote on his head? It's like be worried about what's out west. Like you don't have to be as like worried about the East based on this year. You just don't.
Yeah, the West travel to Memphis is horrific. It is not an easy flight to make unless you have a private jet and you're an NBA
But
team. For those covering those Western Conference teams, that's a
But
tough track.
even
New Orleans is a little bit easier because it's a bigger airport.
But even the players, it's like you're spending how much time? Like you're flying out at like 3 a.m. and switching, like going back 2 time zones.
Right.
It's like, what are we doing? Like if you could.
Well, I could drive to a New Orleans Pelicans game from Miami. It would take a while, but I could make that. I could make that drive if I really wanted to, and that's a Western Conference team.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's how you know we're American, though, because like you Brits would be like, I'm not. I take the train, and we're just like, hey, we got to drive 8 hours across the.
Well, we could do the Bright Line. I could take the Bright Line to Orlando Magic if we want to get all EU in this.
Orlando
thing,
Magic.
You know what?
Orlando Magic.
Yeah.
Okay, get into stocks. I want to tell you first about our friends at Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy is a player prop DFS platform where you can pick more or less on your favorite players across multiple sports, including the NBA and the NFL. Sign up today with code JustBasketball, and Thrive will match your first deposit up to $250. All right, Wes, this was your brilliant brainchild. Tell us explain the stocks here. Explain to the listeners what we're going to get into here and what kind of financial speculation we're sort of doing here.
So speculation there is the key word. We are building our NBA player stock portfolio. So this isn't necessarily a ranking of the best players 25 and under in the league. We are limiting the player pool to those who are 25 years old or younger. And we're just deciding what we want to buy stock. The difference is, again, we're not just going to take the best 25 and unders and just rank them because certain stocks have different valuations, right? So, for instance, like a Luka Doncic, who's one of the best 5 players in the NBA, I think everybody would agree he's the best 25 or younger player in the league right now. But how much more upside is there on that stock? It feels like if you buy Luka now, like how much money are you going to make on that stock if you buy now? Now, as opposed to if you had bought Luka stock when he was a rookie and the 4th pick in the draft, it feels like that stock would have really skyrocketed by now and you'd be rolling in it. So that's sort of the idea here. We obviously don't have like specific valuations for each of these players, but that's sort of like the spirit of it and what we're going to try and keep in mind here. So we have our blue chip players who are the Lukas and the SGAs and these guys who are bona fide superstars already who are younger than 25 years old. So we're going to pick a few blue chip stocks. We're going to pick a few value stocks, a few growth opportunity stocks here of players who we think can make that leap into perhaps a blue chip stock that might not quite be there just yet. We have our IPO or initial public offerings type of stocks. Obviously, that's going to be the rookies. And then we have some speculative stocks, some overlooked kind of role players. Probably not getting rich on these stocks, but you could diversify your portfolio a bit with some of these other guys. And then we're going to get into some penny stocks who are just maybe out of rotation, fringe rotation, maybe just straight up bad players right now who we think have enough upside that it's worth taking a gamble on. This is more of like a high risk, low reward type thing, or I'm sorry, low risk, high reward type of thing. And then, Chris, it's going to get fun. We're going to short a stock. We're going to pick one player whose stock we are going to short, which won't piss any fan bases off. So let's just jump right into it.
All right, so I'll go first. We'll start with buy stock. We'll start with blue chip. Again, 25 and under. A lot of different ways you could go. I think there's obviously a certain guy that if they don't get taken, I would be surprised. But I'm gonna.
Well, can I ask you a question before you?
Please.
Is Victor Wembanyama a blue chip or is he an IPO?
You're stealing where I wanted to go with this because I'm gonna take him an IPO later, so we'll just save that because that is I'm giving him we're giving him a max contract like now, and we'll talk about some of the other rookies as well. But like that guy's just like. Okay. I'm ready. Like that's an IP. That's like that's like Google going public. You know, like that's
who just went public recently.
NVIDIA. Yeah, he's the NVIDIA of he's the NVIDIA of NBA rookies.
Just crazy valuation. Couldn't be higher right now.
And like also, but like it's not even just that. It's also just that he's vitally important to the way the world is going to work the next 20 years. I'm just so like our listeners know we have a whole process where like our producer Dylan makes social graphics and stuff. I am writing in our doc right now. He's the NVIDIA of NBA stocks, and it's going to be about Wemby, and we're riding with that. That's great. He's the NVIDIA of this is the most. I have a deep like interest in like money and finance and stuff, and like I'm not fully like
I'm a fan of money as well.
yeah, I'm not quite I'm not quite day trading, but I'm interested in the market. One of my best friends works at CNBC, so like this is my world. My West though, my blue chip, I'm not overthinking this. I'm taking Luka. I think he's 25. I'm getting him right before he ages out of this exercise. And I get him for 10 years, the chance to win multiple championships, the chance to make a ton of All-NBA teams, the chance to win MVP awards, the chance to be one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player of his generation, right? Like of the 22 to 27-year-olds right now, that could be the best guy in this group that we talk about. There's no need to overthink this. That guy is going to, barring just something entirely unfortunate or unforeseen or whatever, that guy is bound to be great for the next 10 years, and I am just not overthinking. That is as blue chip as it gets.
He was my top pick also for all the things you laid out. The guy hasn't even won a championship yet. He's going to win multiple rings, I would imagine. He is that quality. Not to make a prediction. He is the quality of player who can win multiple rings. This is like buying Apple after they came out with the iPhone. And people are like, I don't like. They already came out with the iPhone. How much more room for growth is there in the Apple stock? Guess what? A lot. There was a lot of growth there for the Apple stock. Buying Luka right now is like buying Apple after the iPhone came out. But like there's an iPad coming out. There's the desktop. There's all the other VR stuff that they've got going on. That stock is still skyrocketing. It's a blue chip stock, and it's a linchpin of many portfolios, including mine. So Luka Doncic, you get him now. There's still so much more room to grow for him, and you nailed it. 10 years, 15 years with the way this guy plays. Why not? Like this guy could be the foundation of your stock portfolio for years to come. And guess what, Chris? If it doesn't work out in Dallas and he can't win a championship there, he'll go somewhere else and win a championship. He'll figure it out because he's that level of player where he gets to dictate the terms. And when you have that and you're investing in a player, give me that. We're talking about players that we're investing in, I am investing in Luka's future because we've only just begun to scratch the surface, I think.
Gotta tell you, the only thing with Luka that scares me, and it's just because I think I look at the numbers now and I just don't know how sustainable some of these contracts are going to be. I do look at the fact that he's going to get a $364 million contract, and then you look at just like what the NBA is as far as a product a lot of the time, and I'm just like, where is this going? That's the part of this that's not. It's not about him as a player, why it's a concern for me, but I don't know where these salaries are going and what this is going to look like in maybe not this next TV deal, but the one after that. I just don't really know. And if he's making that much money, what does that mean for how you build a team? It's a really interesting question to me. That's the one thing. And it's not like the NFL where you can do funny money and give it out as bonuses and figure it out,
Yeah, I think either way, we're probably approaching a time in the NBA where you get to choose two stars. There's no more big threes. The cap just doesn't work that way anymore. It's too punitive to get into that luxury tax space. So if you're picking two stars, though, to build around, and then you need one of those stars basically to elevate the role players around him, that's Luka, isn't it? That's kind of how Dallas is built, for better or for worse. You've got that second star in Kyrie Irving, who is extremely malleable as a co-star and willing to work off the ball and has a ton of literally won championships doing that with LeBron. And then, you got a smorgasbord of role players from Derrick Jones Jr. to Dante Exum, Josh Green, PJ Washington, all these guys who he just figures out how to elevate all of them, all the players around him. So I do think that Luka is if you're going to choose a player to basically build your team around for the next 10 years that is 25 and under, so we're not talking about Nikola Jokic or Giannis or any of these guys, then I think you start with Luka. Can I go to my my second blue chip option though? Because you
yeah. So let's. I had a couple others as well, but give me if I well, I guess are we doing we should discuss this. If I take stocks I don't think any of us, frankly, in this exercise West are gonna have enough money just to buy out all the stocks and take Luka private. So I think we are both we're
both investing in Luka. So maybe we're building the Just Basketball Show
portfolio. Yeah, this is the Just Basketball Show portfolio. So but who else was on your list as far as a blue chip name in this 25 and under category? I had if we both put Wemby I think, correctly in like the IPO zone to kind of finagle us a little bit and cheat and frankly just be smart business people. There's only, I think the list does get whittled down a little bit from there.
So I was thinking Tyrese Halliburton. I think that's a blue chip guy. 2 All-Star appearances already. And he's 24 years old. The hamstring injury notwithstanding, like, could you get him at a low value right now where it makes sense to include him in your blue chip portfolio? But if we're choosing one other one, he would be sort of an honorable mention, somebody that I would research heavily but maybe not pull the trigger on. Zion Williamson's 23 years old. Like, that's more of a questionable outlook right there. That actually might even fall into speculative later. I don't know. But the dude's like a legit top 20 player when he's right. I'm going, and so I had it between like SGA and Anthony Edwards. I think I would buy Anthony Edwards stock before I bought SGA stock right now.
I would too.
You're there?
Yeah, I would go there as well. I just think the surge he has had the last several weeks, I think the frankly just also the star power, right? Like, that guy is oozing charisma. He's oozing star power. He has the dunks. He has everything you could want in a superstar you are putting at the face of your franchise in terms of how he carries himself and all of that. So I would go there as well. It's not to say Shea isn't also great. And like, I think Shea has probably been the higher level defender, is a little more smooth. Like, the edges on him are a little more refined than they are with Ant. But I think there's still, like, Shea is, like, to the age point here, Shea is 25 already. It's not that he like won't get better, but Anthony Edwards is in that growth phase right now where, like, he could add a ton over the next 3 years, and it's like, holy shit, this is now like an MVP candidate on a great team. And like, Shea is there now, but the ceiling for Ant feels just higher because he is just a little bit younger, and you're seeing him, I think, particularly last month, and really since Cat went down, I think, accept that he has to be more and start cutting some of the stuff in his game that isn't the best.
SGA is 25. Anthony Edwards is 22. SGA, according to ESPN's latest straw poll, is already second in the MVP race here. So, again, when you're buying stock, how much more room for growth? What's the opportunity to make money on that? I don't. Does SGA ever win an MVP? Like, odds are that he doesn't. So, this might be his ceiling in a weird way. Like, SGA will get better as a player. I have no doubt about it. Get him some playoff experience. Like, I love Shea. This means nothing in terms of like anti-Shea stuff. It's just, what's the value on the stock that we're buying? Where Anthony Edwards, it still feels like there's a little bit of value there. I think those who are watching the stock market closely understand that this guy's a blue chip, but some people might not even consider him a blue chip, right? Because he's so relatively new to the game here. But there's also some, with the Glenn Taylor, A-Rod stuff, There's some rumors that maybe there's some unhappiness on the board of directors kind of thing with this company. And you're like, okay, there's a little bit of noise around this. Can I get in now where this stock is going to explode, where it's pretty high already, but it's going to explode? It is, to Luka or SGA levels. And Anthony Edwards is obviously not at that point yet, but if you can get in on it now, I'm buying up as any money that I could have used on SGA. I'm repurposing that. I'm spending it all on Anthony Edwards stock.
All right, let's move on to the next category in our portfolio, which is value and growth stock. So this is not rookies, but guys in this category where whether they are 23, whether they are 21, like whatever it is, we still see a lot of room for growth and see value in them as prospects. Wes, I want to start with this and pick a guy in my backyard who I think has still a ton of potential. I think it's been a weird year for him. I think how did you know? I wonder, I don't know if he's actually, he might be 26. I think he started 27. He's out of our stuff here. It's fucking Dean Wade. And he's also kind of been, I think, overshadowed in the market by what Chet has done and what Victor Wembanyama has done. And frankly, also to some degree, what Alperen Sengun has become. Can I make the case for Evan Mobley? Like, have we forgotten like what is still potentially ahead for this guy? He is a defensive savant. He is incredibly smart, incredibly competitive, even if he doesn't totally show it all the time. He's starting to add to his offensive game as a shooter. I think this year has just pushed him out of rhythm. That Cavs team has just kind of become a real problem in a lot of ways, and not like he's a problem in the way the kids say, like not a good problem to have right now. And it feels like this year has kind of been a lost year for him. But if his stock has dropped this year, and I feel like it has, I'm betting on a bounce back for him, where even maybe just because Victor Wembanyama wins the next 10, he doesn't get like a 1 DPOI award or something like that. But I think he's going to make all defense teams. I think that guy is going to find a real clear value on offense. He's going to add to his game, and I just knowing what I know about him and what he's about, I just think the best is still absolutely ahead for that guy. So I'm going to put my stake on him.
So I almost included him on my list. I didn't because I knew you would pick him. So I knew we would have the Evan Mobley base covered. And you nailed it. I mean, this is a guy who's probably I think we need to adjust our ceiling for this. I don't know that he's ever going to be the number 1 option on a really good team. But he could be the number 2 option on a really good team for a very long time. And every sort of number 1 scoring option is going to want to play with a guy like Evan Mobley. And that is the foundation of a very long and fruitful career. So I have no problem with the Evan Mobley pick.
I mean,
I wanted to get a little crazy.
Okay, the last thing I'll say about Mobley is that if people in here we talked about like what he's gonna like, was it not like the Giannis path where he like bulks up and like creates that way? The bulking up probably still needs to happen, we can't project that he's going to be this good because that's insane. I'm not trying to be a homer here, but it's going to, I think, more look like what AD is at his peak, where it's like maybe he hits jumpers sometimes, maybe he doesn't. Does he do enough on offense, and is he like an amazing defender? Like I think that's probably where we're headed with him, which is still a really good player. It's just a little different than maybe you would hope. It's not as sexy, I think, as you would hope it to be. So let's get weird. What's your pick?
Would it be crazy to kind of look at the Trae Young prices right now?
Ooh.
I don't know that his value has ever been worse. The Hawks are thriving, seems like a strong word, but kind of doing the same thing that they were doing before Trae Young got hurt, which is to say, I guess, sort of treading water. I don't know that this could have been a worse start for Trae Young's career, where he gets traded to Atlanta for a series of draft picks. The Hawks pick Luka. They trade Luka to Dallas. They get Trae Young and a bunch of draft picks. They said, okay, we're going to take the quantity over the quality necessarily, and we really believe in Trae Young. And Trae Young has obviously panned out as a very good basketball player and an all-star, but none of those other picks panned out, right? And so what you thought you were getting in that deal didn't really pan out, and he's gone through a series of different coaches, and part of it is his fault. He does not sound like the most coachable guy in a locker room, but he's still like a 30-point-per-game scorer, a 10-assist guy. He's given a little bit more effort defensively this year, and I still think that there's room to grow there. And would it be crazy if they did trade him this summer and he does go to a more stable situation and he kind of explodes in the right environment and becomes a guy who we think of as sort of a consensus top 11 or 12 guy? Because nobody thinks of Trae Young outside of Atlanta in that way, and maybe even in Atlanta at this point anymore. So I do think that maybe his value has never been lower, and if I can grab him now, all of the talent in the world is there. I mean, when he's right, that dude is an offensive engine, like a walking, talking top 5 offensive net rating. I feel like now is the time to buy low on Trae Young.
I think there's a couple names you could kind of look at this similarly, Wes, that I had on my long list in terms of guards that have either had really good moments this year, but maybe haven't hit expectations in some way to varying degrees. Mm-hmm. I think Trae fits that criteria. I think you could look at John Morant in that criteria just based on the off-court stuff and the fact that he barely played this year. You could look at Darius Garland in there. I wouldn't quite go there in the same way, at the same level, but he's like that same kind of vein. You could look at LaMelo Ball if you're a LaMelo Ball guy, and I'm something of a LaMelo Ball skeptic. You could look at Jalen Green.
He wasn't on my
list.
Look
at Jalen Green in this way. And Jalen Green's recent play would give you some indication that it's like, hot damn.
Yeah, so the Jalen Green thing, it's like now you would be buying at like
a
high.
Yeah.
And so you got to be really, really bullish. You got to think Jalen Green can get to this Anthony Edwards level for that purchase to be worth your time right now. But I have one question.
Yeah, I have one other name too. Would you want the question or do you want the name?
Yeah.
Cade Cunningham.
Okay, so that's where I wanted to go with this. I have him on my list. Who do you think has, if you were to put these guys on the stock market and give them a valuation, who would have the lowest or the highest valuation between Cade Cunningham, Scotty Barnes, and Alperen Şengün right now? Because I'm going to put a lot of money on whichever one has the lowest. I am bullish on all three of those guys. I love Cade Cunningham. I am all in on Cade. but I want to know who's got the lowest value where I'm going to get the biggest bang for my buck. And it might be Cade. I don't know that there's a whole lot of great stuff happening around Detroit right now, other than Malachi, Flynn, and Pittsburgher.
I think Cade has to have the lows just because he plays for the worst situation, right? It's just bit.
And people trust like where Toronto's going with Scotty Barnes, and we like with the whole
Well,
Rockets. They've done a lot of this without.
I don't know if
but
people trust where the Raptors are going. I hit there's some weird I don't know if I trust that, but he's been awesome this year and really rebounded in year 3 after kind of an year 2. The Sengun thing is he was the best. He was kind of the most interesting one of those guys to me because he evolved and there's such a sliding doors moment with that team in particular where if they had actually paid Brook Lopez a bunch of money in the summer and they could have cost themselves what happened with Sengun, and that's he would have been like a penny stock for us more than he would have been, a guy we're high on here. I think Cade has to have the lows just because if you think about this year, it's like Scotty Barnes was like a fringe all-star, all that stuff. Sengun was an offensive savant. You can think of a bunch of great performances and moments from him. The thing I remember most from Cade...
And people are going to chase the Sengun stock like it's the next
right,
too. So you got a little bit of that.
Exactly. With Cade, the thing I remember most from him this year, unfortunately, is him just talking at press conferences looking pissed off as all hell about them losing a lot of games.
Right. Okay, so you and I are buying Cade stock.
So I think...
And then
should we buy? I think in this category, should we buy 3 in this category? I think we got our one blue chip.
Yeah,
all right, what's the other one?
I think this guy could legitimately get into that blue chip status. I think this guy can legitimately get there, and it might be a surprising name, but I really think there's a lot more room for growth here. It's Jalen Williams.
I
was trying to think.
J-Dub.
Okay, can we stop with this? When we talk about Jalen Williams, I know that the Thunder have 2 of them. Nobody's ever talking about the other one.
I know.
Nobody's ever talking about the other one. It's Jalen Williams.
I know.
If you say the other one, it's like the corn versus corn on a cob thing. It's like, what about corn off the cob? Okay, no. That's just corn. We know what it is, all right? So we're never talking about the other one. If you think about, the next young wing in the league, Jalen Williams, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Scotty Barnes could be in there if we consider him a forward, which I kind of do. There's some other names in there. I would take Jalen Williams over all of them right now.
Yeah.
Right? And so, let me buy stock in the next young wing. That's the guy I want. I want J-Dub. And I want I want Jalen Williams.
I take the blame on that one, honestly.
Yeah, you implanted it. It's his nickname. I'm not saying it to differentiate. So I think there's more room. I think I still think it's a growth stock option.
I agree. I think he's a lock for this. I'm kind of mad that we probably should have frankly brought him up first. If we're being honest with her,
I had him on my list, but I wanted to go with the hot Trae Young take.
Yeah,
first
I respect it. I don't want to put Trae Young on our portfolio. If I'm being honest, we're if Luka is our blue chip, and even if we're building out all this defensive infrastructure, I kind of just give me let's build the portfolio, Wes. I think we're building a portfolio here that is forward future looking. Trae Young is not exactly I feel like a great indicator of a guy that's going to thrive in what the NBA looks like 10 years from now.
There's definitely more variance with the Trae Young stock option. It's a little bit more like a Bitcoin.
We should have done a Bitcoin category, and I would have been like Jordan.
All right.
Well, no, Jordan Poole is the Bitcoin of.
Jordan Poole is what's the one that everybody bought but nobody buys anymore?
Dogecoin.
Yeah, Dogecoin. That's everybody was buying it, and then we're oh, this isn't even a serious thing.
Yeah, it's just
Jordan Poole is the Dogecoin of
I love this. All right, so if we're buying 3 players in this category for a portfolio, we're going Jalen Williams. We are going Evan Mobley. And then who are we going? What are we doing for our third? I'll let you pick our third.
We are
going Cade? All right.
Cade, Mobley, Jalen Williams.
I like that a lot. With Luka. We're winning 90 titles.
And we've got Luka and we've got a smattering on Anthony Edwards.
We got a little chunk of Anthony Edwards in our portfolio, which is good.
Yeah. And we're probably going to regret not buying more of
100%. We're going to feel we should have bought that before it doubled in price and
Well, we feel we're putting a lot of money on Anthony Edwards. We should have had $100,000 that we start divvying up on this stuff. And we could literally just take 50 grand and split it between.
All right,
Luka
let's do it.
and
Let's do it on the fly. So let's give ourselves a budget of $250,000. Okay.
Okay, I like.
Okay, we're being rich. We have some money. We're investing. We're liquid right now, right? So
I want 75K on Luka and 75K on Ant. So that leaves us with 150 left.
So then, how do we this kind of mid-table, kind of like broad, kind of like a mutual fund? Here's actually, you know what? This middle part, I think these middle part can kind of be like a mutual fund of a lot of different guys. I think we should add 2 more guys into this middle tier that we just did, and we'll spend $50,000 on it.
Well, okay, let's do that with we do it with the IPO guys.
Well,
because I think we're gonna feel pretty good about.
Well, let me throw this suggestion for you. I think we have spent $150,000 on the 2 big guys, right? That leaves us with $100,000 left. Let's spend 50 on the following 5 players in this tier that we just did. The 3 we named, so Cade, Jalen Williams, and Evan Mobley. Let's throw Zion in there. Okay.
Okay.
And then one more guy. Halliburton, great. Okay, those are our 5 in that category, right? So that means we have we have 100
left.
Yeah, we have 50 left. Let's spend 45 on the IPO of Victor Wembanyama, and that is our IPO play. We are just throwing every dollar we have into the IPO play.
Done. All right, so 45 on Wemby. We both agree on that. Let's just move right.
No, we just got to say we're getting a guy who's going to win multiple Defensive Players of the Year, who the Spurs should go build a real team around right fucking now. Who Draymond Green is like Draymond Green, who whatever you want to say about Draymond, that guy and his analysis of basketball is intentionally serious and very good and very intelligent. When that guy says Victor Wembanyama should be Defensive Player of the Year, it makes me consider what I'm watching. It makes me think about what I'm watching.
I feel silly almost not putting 100 grand into Victor Wembanyama at this point, but here's what we're going to do is when we get our dividend payout at the end of the year, I want to see what San Antonio does around Victor Wembanyama this summer, and if they get him a real point guard who could throw him an entry pass and start moving that thing in the right direction, we're going to take all the dividends and just reinvest it into the Wembanyama stock. That's what we're going to do.
Any money we make anywhere, frankly, should just go back into like buying more Wemby stock. It's like we don't need the money. Like we're cool with not being liquid right now. Like I'm Cooper Flag, whatever. Like that's cool, but like I just want to reinvest my money into the Victor Wembanyama IPO.
I could put like a little bit. I don't know what the value on investment on Chet Holmgren is right now, although it does feel like that stock has cooled a little bit. I would consider putting a little bit of cash on Chet. I like what I've seen from Scoot Henderson lately.
So I have him as a penny stock.
Okay, all right, so we could do that. And then I like my guy Jaime Jaquez. I like him too, and I think his value is actually down right now. So I might take like a couple bucks and throw it at Jaime.
So like let's do 40 on Wemby. Let's do 3,000 on Chet, and then we'll do 2,000 on. We're gonna do 2,000 on Jaime. And I'm gonna say we can get away with the penny stock with Scoot because when you get the headline of you have the single game worst plus minus, I kind of just think like unfortunately like we can get you as a penny stock with the money we have left.
So this next category is I think my favorite one. It's
speculative and it's like
harder to define. So we might argue about who falls into
right.
this,
but I think it also allows us, Wes, to kind of explain like what we like as far as different players, right? Like if there's a guy we really like, we make the case for them. I think we might have one name that I know we kind of came up over text that I am very, very in on that I think you at least like as well.
Okay, I already forgot about
Jalen Suggs.
Okay, I have Jalen Suggs on my list. Here's my question. How much better is Jalen Suggs going to get? I think he's awesome right now. You asked me in my first episode, like, what's my first jersey I ever bought? And I told you my first and my last jersey was Dwayne Wade. I am this close to buying a Jalen Suggs Orlando Magic pinstripe jersey. I love that guy. But I'm also like, is he ever going to be better than what he is right now? Which is first team all defensive guard, probably. Definitely that caliber. A guy who's shooting 37% from three, and who probably isn't your lead guard, but you want him in your backcourt, probably with another lead guard, and is a total MFer and sets the tone for that whole locker room. I love Jalen Suggs. But I don't know that he's going to get this much better than what he is right now.
But I want like Alex Caruso in my portfolio. You know what I mean? Like,
okay, why?
I want like something that I kind of know exactly what it is that I'm getting good value for, that if I need to like sell it off because he's underpaid and I can get some money back on that, I want that in my portfolio. And at a certain point, it's just like here, there's a line we could pick between picking like if you wanted like a lottery ticket of 25 and under, you just go like Amani Bates. That's literally a penny stock. I have no idea if that guy's going to ever play or not. I want at least like a balance of like, give me one guy in this category.
All right.
Who is like, I'm not,
That's
yeah.
fine. I mean, look, you're not going to talk me out of Jalen Suggs.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know how much. But if we want just a value consistent kind of deal here, then I'm okay.
We need.
I would love to have.
I think we got to take like one guy like that, and then we can just start like firing off, like whatever the Poku of 2024 is. We can buy like a ton of that.
I think we can get Tari Eason at a low price right now because he hasn't played all year. I think people forget about him and the whole Rockets noise. So I'd love to get some Tari Eason stuff here because you could argue he might be Houston's third best player next year.
Yeah,
if he comes back and he's right, you know. So I like him. Can I interest you in some Tyler Hero stock? If there's ever been a player actually talked about like an ETF, like over the last year, it has been Tyler Hero, whose value has been dragged through the mud ever since being involved in the Portland Damian Lillard drama and those trade talks. He's been hurt for most of the season, hasn't even played 40 games for Miami. You've got the whole thing from them making the finals last year without him. But Tyler Hero's a damn good player. That guy scores 20 points almost effortlessly. He's gotten much better as a playmaker. He can run pick and roll for you. He competes defensively, averaging a career high in steals. He's actually underrated as a guy who jumps passing lanes and creates turnovers. A very underrated rebounder. I really like Tyler Hero's game. I don't know that he's the best fit in Miami, and we'll see what happens this summer. But if he gets traded somewhere where he can kind of be more of, maybe not the lead guy, but a guy who is on a little bit of a younger team, has some more room to roam, kind of let him off the leash a little bit. I really like where we can get Tyler Hero in terms of value now, because I think this guy's going to be a really good player for a very long time.
Yeah, I have no notes there. So we've got Hero, we've got Suggs. Who was the other one we said? Yeah, Tari Eason. No.
I mean, we could just do a sprinkling. I thought about Jalen Johnson.
We can get like somewhere between like so we have $5,000 left. We can do like 10 guys at $500 a pop and like just squeeze a bunch of names in here as lottery tickets.
Yeah, and the penny stocks.
Yeah, it's like this isn't going to hurt us very much.
Those are minimum contracts. They don't count against the.
I'm going to give you one of a guy who's had like an entirely lost season because he's only played 19 games, but I believe in him as the archetype he is at center, and that's Mark Williams.
Thought about him.
Okay,
he's on my long list. Yeah,
I want to do. I think we can buy Scoot here. I would like to just buy Scoot stock.
Yeah, let's buy some Scoot. His body control is awesome. He is not afraid of getting contact. He's a good passer. He's lately thrown like these cross-court, opposite-hand passes that have been really impressive. The shot is still the most unstable part of his game, but that's why he's here. I mean, every team just plays way off of him like he's Draymond Green on the Dynasty Warriors. And it's not exactly like the Portland Trailblazers have a bunch of other shooting threats that you got to worry about like those other teams. But I would love to get a Pelicans guy in here. So I was thinking like Herb Jones. I feel like
I think it's hard to find a Pelicans guy that isn't like Nance doesn't. I don't think offer us a ton in this exercise.
I got one for you because it started
Dyson
with
Daniels,
and I thought about Dyson Daniels. Are we? Maybe not. I don't know that I'm in enough on Dyson Daniels. If I end up being wrong on, I like Dyson Daniels, but if I end up being wrong on him, that I'll be able to live with it. Trey Murphy III, he seems like a Herb Jones to me. It's like how much more feels like we all know what's going on there. It doesn't feel like it's an opportunity buy here, but maybe it is. I don't know. I have another speculative name that doesn't play for New Orleans, plays for Memphis. I don't know if this is a penny stock or not, but I've got Vince Williams.
So I had him and G.G. Jackson on my long list. Vince Williams, obviously, more baseline level of production. G.G. Jackson, literally the youngest player in the NBA.
So G.G. Jackson almost made my short list. I like G.G. Jackson fine. We'll see what happens when those shot opportunities dry up, when Ja comes back and Desmond Bane comes back. But Vince Williams is a bad MFer. That dude plays defense like he's on safari. I love watching that dude play. I am all in. I think he's the long-term answer at small forward for the Grizzlies. If I had to bet between him, Zaire Williams, G.G. Jackson, like who ends up being the three next to Ja Morant and Desmond Bane, I think Williams just makes the most sense schematically. More defensive leaning, makes the open jumpers better than any of those other guys more consistently. I'm all in on Vince Williams. I would love to put some.
All right, I'm absolutely down for that. So here's who we have in our like not good, kind of like undervalued category in the penny stocks: Hero, Suggs, Tyree Eason, Mark Williams, Scoot Henderson, Vince Williams. So we have three. We have three more spots kind of in here that we could do.
Okay. Can I ask you a question about Mark Williams? Because we didn't really explore that. We don't have to go too deep into it. But I think we agree on the value for Mark Williams right now, where his stock is at, is probably better than the Jalen Duren stock. I'm high on Duren, but it feels like Mark Williams is a better value. I think that's where we're at. Yeah. Okay, very good. You know what? If we want to throw some money at Herb Jones, I'm okay with it. We're just going to have the best wing defender in the league
but
for a couple
does
more
he
years.
fit our parameters of, like, if we're contracting, kind of holding ourselves in, like, is he a bad player / role? Like, I guess he kind of counts as a role guy, but it's, like, upper echelon role guy. I think if we do that, then we have to pick, like, another hero type where it's, like, a role guy that kind of, like, we don't know exactly what their next steps are, and then we have to pick, like, an absolute lottery ticket.
Okay.
So I'm down for that. So let's do Herb. Here's my suggestion for a guy that is like in the hero zone of like already got paid a little bit, capable of big points, but maybe like pretty flawed in kind of a weird spot. Can I throw Colin Sexton at you in that category?
Yep.
All right.
I'm good with it. I like Colin Sexton a lot.
The competitiveness in that guy is like unreal. He's also like getting overshadowed by Keontae George, so like it's possible that like his next stop, if like he's on the Lakers and like whatever it is, and he becomes a six man, that's when like you actually see his value like really blossom.
I have a lottery ticket for you.
Hit me.
Let's throw some money at Kuminga.
I think he might have already exceeded lottery ticket. Before you joined the show, Brendan and I did an awards episode. He's my pick for most improved player in the NBA this year. Talk me into it. I'm down for it because I was gonna go like literally. I was gonna go back to Monty Bates and be like, basketball Instagram fucking loves this guy and he shoots a lot of threes and he has a name and it's like we can just say we have a Monty Bates in like our portfolio. But is that the smart?
Well, can we go rookie, or can we go with another rookie? Well, we already have Scoot. What about one of the Thompson twins?
Yeah.
It feels like Amen or Asar Thompson might be the way to go here.
We already have one Piston. We have one Rocket. We have two Rockets, so we want to go with the Piston.
Why do I love Asar Thompson? I'm kind of looking at Jaden Ivey. I kind of love the Pistons. I don't know. I love the Pistons players. They can't.
I mean, the guy there's a guy. Like, even if you told me like we're gonna rehabilitate Quentin Grimes, he'd be like, "Fuck yeah, let's go." Like I'd be like, you hurt me," you know.
So, I just looked it up. I like Quentin.
So do I. It's just like, what are we doing?
So the Thompson twins actually come together. They're a bunch. They come stapled together as a stock, so we get to buy both.
Okay, we can either get that bundle, or we can get like a bond at the end of our portfolio that is just like the crappy Pistons roll guys. So So
I like it. Let's just
this would be like the package of guys we would get. We would get Ivy, we would get Sasser, we would get Asar Thompson, we would get Isaiah Stewart. Yeah, we get Big Stu, and we don't. Duren's too good for this. We have to get Grimes. Grimes would be the fifth, so it'd be like Grimes, Ivy, Sasser, Thompson, and Beef Stew.
All right, so I have one that probably does count as speculative. I had him under my penny stock, but he was sort of. What about maybe not actually. I don't know, Miles McBride?
Would you rather have him or would you rather have Herb Jones?
I would rather have Herb Jones, but I do feel like maybe there's more room for a payoff in McBride because he's not as good as Herb Jones, not even close. But it does feel like he could have a moment within the next 8 years that we could cash out on because his teammates love him. Coach Tom Thibodeau loves him. He's already got that Tibbs shine. So he's going to just because he's had success on the Knicks under Tibbs, he's going to it's like the Heat effect, it's the Lakers effect, it's the Warriors effect. He's just going to be in the league for another 6 years minimum, just based on absolutely nothing. And I actually think he's a good player. So he could play in the league for another 10 years, and it just feels like he could have a moment that we can cash out on.
So let's review the portfolio. We'll make any adjustments before we turn this into our financial advisor. Brendan, by the way, just has no say in any of this. That sucks for him.
That's correct. That's all right.
So to recap, we have $250,000 in fake money. $775,000 goes to Luka as a blue chip. $75,000 as a blue chip goes to Anthony Edwards. We took $40,000 and we threw it at the Victor Wembanyama IPO. We took $10,000 and we got Cade, Mobley. Sorry, we took $50,000. What do we do here? 50. Zion, Mobley, Cade, Tyrese Halliburton, and then who was the fifth that I'm forgetting? And Jalen Williams. Yeah, Jalen Williams. So those 5. Yeah. Then
we took another $5,000 and put it on Chet and Jaime.
And then in our penny stocks, we got the Pistons conglomerate and these are all 500 apiece. We split these up 10 ways. We got Ivy, Sasser, Thompson, Beef Stew, and Quentin Grimes in a bond. We have that. We got Vince Williams. We got Colin Sexton. We got Tyler Hero. We got Jalen Suggs. We got Mark Williams. And we got Scoot Henderson.
I like it.
Is it?
I think we're good.
We bought a lot of this. Wes, I got to tell you, I think we did a better job at this. Adding the money thing on your call was a great call. We did it on the fly, but I think that was a good call. To absolutely do that. I feel really good about this portfolio. Certainly, where if I would identify 2 risks, I would say this. Obviously, we just went all in on Wembanyama. And I think that was the right call, but it's going to be dependent on what the Spurs actually do as an organization to get him there, because they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt anymore to get the most to maximize him properly, right? Part of me wonders if we are playing it in terms of lottery ticket in the penny stocks. I wonder if we are partially playing it a little too safe, but the Pistons thing, the Mark Williams thing, the Scoot thing. I think we're good. And it's also I think to really identify, I think the hardest part about finding trying to project someone at the end of a roster and then project them all the way forward as far as a penny stock goes. We watch the whole league, but you could tell me who, well, really we should have just picked whoever you think is going to be great next from the Sioux Falls Skyforce and is going to make $100 million. That's really the answer here. Who's Duncan Robinson next? But if it's me and you're saying, okay, who is the lottery ticket in Cleveland? I would either tell you, I would say Isaiah Mobley's not good. Pete Nance isn't good other 2 ways. It's either Craig Porter Jr., who has I think a very defined ceiling as a backup combo guard, or it's Amani Bates, who I have no idea if he's going to be good or not. And then, but I can't tell you who the lottery ticket on the Sixers is necessarily going to be, because it gets hard. The further you are away from a situation, it's just harder to tell, right? I mean, maybe can I make? I'm going to make one suggestion actually, because we didn't draft any Suns, and we drafted Cavs and Heat.
Oh,
but I want to. How much? So exactly, lottery ticket on Bol. Who do we want to kick out of the end and throw in Bol?
Well, we can make. I think Bol counts.
But we might have one open penny stock slot actually.
I think we can do as many penny stocks as we want. Like I said, it doesn't even count against the cap.
We're doing a penny stock on Bol.
Yeah, I've been an Ish Wainwright for a long time too.
The Bol one, that's an Instagram win for us. The kids on TikTok are gonna be hell yeah, Bol.
Yeah, that's true. Bol, you don't know his game. I want to throw another penny stock at Peyton Watson.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of him from Denver.
Can I just make? I want to make a suggestion, and that is that we also just do a buy-in on any like Nuggets like late first round draft pick. We'll just buy like another bond on them. So it's like Peyton Watson, Julian Strawweather. Like we unfortunately have Zeke Naji in there. Yeah.
Or anybody they pick going forward too. We just have a little pool of money here. They pick somebody and you just purchase it. I'm good with that. And like we could have a Sioux Falls Skyforce fund also, where just whoever's on that team, we just throw blind money at that. We don't even think about it. We just constantly once a month just throw in a few bucks that way. All right, time to short.
Okay. The short. This is where like in the future we will have to short someone in our own portfolio, but in this case we are going to short people we have talked about and people that are in 25 and under in the NBA, fit the parameters, but that we are absolutely just out on. Wes, who I think let's do two each. We can kind of get through this quickly. Who are you shorting?
So I only have one player here. No, well I can go two. I can go two with you. But my top guy is Cam Thomas. I'm shorting Cam Thomas. I know Brooklyn Nets fans love him, but there's a little bit of nothing else is going right for you, so this is like the only thing you have to root for type deal happening there. I like Cam Thomas fine, but the broadcast showed a stat like Cam Thomas 1 assist in the last like 19 games the other day, and I'm just like, that's not impressive, dude. Like, you're the lead point guard. You should have 1 assist every game. You know, we shouldn't be counting how many in a row. And he doesn't pass. I think he's a really good scorer. I don't mean to take anything away from him. He's an awesome scorer. But as soon as the Brooklyn Nets get a better option, they're going to move in another direction. And this is going to be probably Cam Thomas's best season of his career. I think if we look back on Cam Thomas's career and be like, yep, that was the best season, that would not be a surprise for anybody. So I'm going to go ahead and...
I like that one. I will give you my spicy one and then my less spicy one. My spicy one is I'm going to short Josh Giddey. I just am not sure that guy is ever going to hit enough threes to really fit with the rest of that team. I was high on him coming into the year. I'm not as into what he is anymore. It feels like there's just something, he's shooting better from three this year than he ever has. The volume just isn't there. He doesn't get to the free throw line like at all. His assists are down. Jalen Williams is just like clearly the number 2. And if they go spend big, it's going to be to eat up his minutes in his spot. And his minutes are down like 6 a game this year. I'm shorting Giddey. I don't know exactly where he's going from here. So that's a concern to me. The other one I'm shorting, despite I love how weird he is, I just don't know if the circumstances there are really going to help them. I'm shorting Jeremy Sohan. He just like can't shoot. And if you're 6'8",
the point guard thing.
Yeah, like they need like a real adult point guard and guys who can shoot around Wemby. And even if there are things he does that I really like and the intangibles in there and there's like reasons to be a fan, I don't know what he is offensively that's going to give him like a really stable place in the modern NBA. He improved 6% from 3 this year and he's still only shooting 30.8% from 3. What are we doing?
I have no complaints with either of those.
Your reaction to Giddey was a little like, are you sure you're shorting Giddey?
Yeah, I think I might actually on the side over here buy up whatever you're shorting on Giddey because I'm actually a little bit more bullish on him. If he ends up getting traded, because it feels like the Thunder are going to have to make a decision at some point with one of these young guys. I don't know. I feel like he'll just play in the league for a while. I don't know how good he's going to be. He's never going to make it. I don't think he'll ever make an all-star game or anything like that. But he's just like, he does enough on the fringes where I feel like a lot of teams can just like talk themselves into signing him, and he just might be in the league for a while. But I think you and I agree generally with the point. And if we're going to have more of a basketball discussion, I think that's right. It's like, okay, what for the Thunder to hit that next level, it kind of feels like it's that Giddey spot that they got to do something with. So I have no complaints with any
So there's our portfolio. We'll post the full portfolio in some way, shape, or form to social. And what we're going to do is after the playoffs, before next season, maybe like after like free agency as well. I think that might be another good time to revisit this. Just periodically, a little more than once a quarter. We're gonna review our portfolio, sell off some things, reinvest our dividends, kind of track like how we're doing. Brendan will get some input at some point in the future, but maybe. Honestly, like, I think we did, Wes. Honestly, I feel really great about it. Like,
who's the one that Brendan would have the biggest problem with? Do you think?
He would have made fun of me for bringing. He would have made fun of both of us for bringing up our guys in our situation. Like he would have been like, "Are you really like spending money on Jaime Jaquez and Evan Mobley?" And we'd be like, "Yes."
Well, it's a shame that we didn't pick like that great Phoenix Suns young player.
Yeah. He would have also been like, "Why did you guys like not rush to the podium to get Jalen Williams first?" And said you talked about Trae Young. That absolutely is going to be his note. Can I tell you the one name that I want to keep on our radar going forward, playoff pending, but he just makes a lot of money already, so it scares me a little bit. I just want to throw this out there as like a name to consider. Jaden McDaniels.
Okay.
I'm just.
Okay. If he could stay on the floor and not foul out of every game, I'd be willing to. So until that happens,
so
we'll
him and Kuminga and I would say Pajemski are kind of like three I just like have like on my fringes here to like just let's consider this a little bit, you know. Jalen Johnson too would have been another one that I would have been pretty cool with because he's clearly like the best of the smorgasbord of forwards in Atlanta.
Yeah. They're really high on him, too, in Atlanta. They love him. I would be okay with buying some Jalen Johnson stock. If Brendan wants to make that adjustment, we could do that. And we could find somebody else to kick out. But I think we're good.
That's a good starting point. That is the initial Just Basketball Show portfolio episode. I'm Chris Manning. That is Wes Goldberg. Brendan and I will be back on our YouTube channel only, giving you 15-20 minutes on Joel Embiid's first 2 games back. We'll do that Thursday after the Wes sees Embiid play the Miami Heat, and obviously we saw Embiid play the Thunder earlier this week. And then Wes and Brendan will be back next week, and then we'll have a whole, again, 3 episodes a week going forward here, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays with myself, Brendan Clean, and that guy, Wes Goldberg. Thanks again to Dylan and Zayon for their work on production, social, and otherwise. We'll talk to y'all soon.